Hey, this section is going to be all about the Drive app service, and the Google Drive is going to be the place where all of the files get stored, and it really is kind of like a central place where you can accept permissions, share files, get file IDs, set different types of permissions, and access all of the files within a directory type structure. So covering all of the amazing things that you can do with the Google Drive service, and the service allows scripts to create, find, modify files and folders within the Google Drive. So we're going to be selecting different files, different folders, iterating through the contents of those files and those folders, selecting the file objects, folder objects, updating, manipulating, copying them, getting IDs, getting information on them, listing them out, creating an HTML using the Google Drive app service, so copying files, setting different file meme types, how we can trash files, so sending files to trash, how we can list out files that are within the trash and then bring them back into our regular drive, how we can set permissions, see the permissions on a particular file or folder, update, manipulate those, track that information. As well, we're going to be covering a number of mini coding projects. So these are going to be set to be really useful type coding examples and mini applications that you can utilize within your own projects. So creating an app to list out the folders. So creating some interaction between the Drive app and the Spreadsheet app service. So sending the list of files and folders and who has access, who has permissions, adding it into a spreadsheet. Also, how we can select a file and move it into a particular folder, so copying, moving files within the Drive. How we can use the search functionality to find files, define folders, and get their ID values so that we can interact with them within the app script. How we can remove, add editors, viewers using Google Script and interacting with the contents of the Drive. And also how we can create a web app to list out folders that are contained within the Drive. So all this and a whole lot more, and remember the source code is included, and it is suggested that you try the code out and use these code snippets to create the same functionality within your applications. In this lesson, we are going to be looking at Introduction to the Drive app service. So this is the service that allows scripts to create, find, modify files and folders within the Google Drive. So first of all, let's go over and create a brand new script. So I've got my Drive opened. I've logged into the Google accounts, and going under New and More, I'm going to select Google Apps Script. So it's going to open up the Google Script Editor. And from here, I'm going to be interacting with the contents within the Drive. So there's no option for having a bound script. So these are all going to be standalone scripts that are going to be accessing the Drive. And I'll make this a little bit smaller so it's a little bit easier to read. And what we want to do is use the Drive app. So we want to list out all of the files within the Drive. And I'll just call it list my files. So creating a function within the Google Script editors. So we want to loop through all of the files. So get the files object. So using the Drive app class, and then get files. So we have a few options where we can retrieve files. So we can get a file by ID, we can get files by name, files by type, and then there's also same folder options as well. So we want to use the method that's get files, and this will retrieve back all of the files within the Drive. And then going into the while, we're going to loop through files while it has next. So while there is a next file, we're going to continue to iterate through all of the files. Let's get the file object information, and that can get returned back files next method. So you need to use the next method to select the available object within the files, and as we're iterating through, then we're assigning the value of that file object into a variable name called file. And then lastly, let's just use the logger log, and we're going to log out the file, and we've got information here that we can select from that file object. So there's options for adding users, editors, and commenters. We can get the content as a blob, and we can get the name of the file. So we'll retrieve back the name of the file and output it into the logger. And of course, we're going to have to accept permissions for the app to access the drive. Let's run the script and see what happens. So we're executing the script right now, and the permissions window should pop up any second. We need to accept permissions because it's a brand new script that we're running and it's accessing content within the drive. So go to review the permissions, select the account that you want to run the script as, and then this app hasn't been verified, so click that advanced link. And within that advanced link, there's more information about unverified apps. So go ahead and click go to the drive app on safe, and the drive app is just what we've got the name of the script. And once you select, it'll tell you which account you're going to be accessing the the script as, and also what permissions have been set. If you need more information, you can click the information icon. And if you do want to remove out the permissions that you just set, you can always go to the myaccount.google.com/permissions, and that will list out all of the permissions that you've granted for your account to run scripts. So there's more information. And then once you've satisfied with running the app, provide the permissions for the app to access the drive, and that's going to allow us to run the execution, and it's going to list out all of the files that it finds as it loops through the drive. So I've got quite a lot of files there, and it's just looping through and accessing all of the file objects that I currently have within the drive, and I do have quite a few. So that's just one way that you can use the Drive app. And I'll show you different ways how we can find the starting position and list out the files in a particular folder and more coming up in the next lessons. Hey, welcome back. And in this lesson, we want to list out all of the files in a specific folder. So let's go ahead, and I've created a folder that's just Drive app test. And we can move some of the content files that we have into that folder. So I'm going to select some of the docs that I've got, and these are the ones that we've got within the previous lessons. We'll move it into the Drive app test folder. So we want to select only the files that are contained within this folder, and the last time when we ran the script we got all of the files. So we need to be more specific which folder we want to get the files from. So we need to be able to set a folder and find a folder on our drive. So let's do that, and we'll do files in folder. So the folder is going to be where the starting point is, and it's going to look for all of the files that are contained within the folder. So we want to select a specific folder from our drive. So let's select the folder, and within the Drive app we want to get folder by ID. So it's going to return back the one specific folder. And when we are looking for plural, then that's going to return back an array of objects. But when we're looking for the ID, there's only going to be the one folder. So every folder is going to have a unique ID. So that's one of the easiest ways to identify the folders. And you can also do it by name, but the name search, you have the option to have more folders with the same name. And the easiest way to get the folder ID is to open it up within the drive, look at the URL within the web URL, and you're going to have the folder ID directly within the web URL. So that's where we can select the ID, and then that way we can use that object and select the folder that we want to get the file contents from. So now that we've got a starting point for where we want to get the files, we can loop through and we can list out, and we'll use the list my files function and update that. And this is just going to require a folder object to be passed in. So we're passing in the folder object that we've got to there within the my files, and then within the parameters here within this function, let's go ahead and we're going to list out the folder. Instead of Drive app, we're going to be searching the get files that are contained within the folder. So let's look for and run the function folder in files in folder and see if we get the files that we just moved in there. So you can see we did search for those specific files. So I believe we've got about 8 files there, and just double check. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we got all of the files that are contained within the folder. So that's how you can set the specific needle to a specific folder and search only that folder. And if you are just searching within the Drive app, then that's just going to return back all of the files that are available within your drive as a total whole. So update your script from the last lesson and search within a specific folder, and also make sure that you do have some files within that folder so that you get some folder results being returned, some file results being returned back. This lesson we're going to be using the Drive app in order to create a file. So let's go ahead and create a function and give the function a name. So I'll just give it a name of makeIt. And then within the function, we want to create a file. So let's create our file and using Drive app. And then using the method create a file. There's also create a folder as well. So we're creating a file. So it requires a couple parameters. And the first parameter is going to be the file name. So new name, so whatever you want to call the file. And then next is going to be the contents of the file. So we can add in contents of the file. So the name is a string and also the content is a string. So if we want to add in HTML content, I'm going to use a variable for this, and we're going to add some HTML code into a variable called HTML. So let's set that up as well. So using the HTML variable, and then within the variable, we'll have some HTML code that will say hello world, and save it as a file. And let's run the function. And we need to accept permissions because, again, it is interacting with the Drive app class. So it does require permissions, additional permissions for the app. So it's going to create a file with a name of new name. And by default, that gets created to the root directory. So the file is created, and if we open it up, it's just going to be opened up as a regular text file. Because we didn't specify a meme type for the file, so it doesn't really have a file type associated with it. So if we want to specify and create it as an HTML file, then we can take this one step further where we specify the meme type. And the meme type, there's a number of different meme types. So you type in meme type, and we're going to set the meme type as HTML. And if you want to add the file to a specific location, so let's run the code and create the new file. And this is just a new HTML file. So just save that, and let's run the makeIt. And this will create a new HTML file. That's the file over there. And also, if we want to specify the folder that we want to place it in, we need to get the folder object. So using the Drive app, get folder by ID, and then we use the ID value of the folder, and this will set it in a specific location. So if we want to use the same folder location that we did last time, get the folder ID, and within the code, select the folder by its ID. So get folder by ID. And then instead of creating it within the Drive app, you can just create it right within that folder directory. So let's make that and run the code. And now that added in the file in the specified directory. So go ahead, try it out. You can create files, and you can also create folders within a folder. So if, for instance, we want to add a folder in here, so we want to create a folder and then we want to add the file in the new folder, let's do that as well. So a new folder, and using the Drive app, we're going to create a folder, and the folder is going to require parameters. So we'll give it a parameter name of new folder. And then within that new folder, if we want to add the new file that we just created, we can do it this way. So this will create a folder and it will create a file. Run the code. And then we're going to the main folder directory. And actually, I think we created on the root. So there's our new folder that we just created. And there's the file that's in the folder. If you want to place the folder, the new folder, within that folder that we originally selected, we can do that as well, where we update that as folder, and then now it will create the new file into the folder. And the reason that the file is grayed out is that the value is not being used. So we don't have to specify unless we need to make use of the object, so we don't need to specify it and assign the value to it. So this will still create the file into the newly created folder. So let's go back out, go into our test folder, there's the newly created folder, and within that folder there's the file we just created.